Making the headlines tonight. Prime Minister Hun Sen and the Vietnamese Foreign Minister highlight important issues in Cambodia-Vietnam relations, including negotiations around the South China Sea. ASEAN Tourism Ministers and the ASEAN Secretary General announced the official reopening of ASEAN Tourism from Sihanoukville. The WHO reports only 7% of the population in Africa has received 2 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine, stressing that huge swaths of the world are being left behind. Athletes traveling to next month's Beijing Olympics have been warned about speaking up on human rights issues while in China for their own safety. And an extremely rare case of a calf with 2 heads was recently born in India's northeastern Gomadi district. This is the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. I'm Darshana Gochan. National Assembly President Heng Samrin received a courtesy call from the Vietnamese Foreign Minister Bui Thanh Son at the National Assembly on Thursday afternoon after the Foreign Minister completed his visit to the Royal Palace of Cambodia. National Assembly President Heng Samrin warmly welcomed the visit from Foreign Minister Bui Thanh Son and said that his visit was an important contribution to promoting friendly relations, traditional solidarity, and cooperation in all fields between Cambodia and Vietnam. Both the National Assembly President and the Vietnamese Foreign Minister exchanged congratulations for the 55th anniversary of diplomatic relations between Cambodia and Vietnam this year. The Vietnamese Foreign Minister further expressed his congratulations and happiness to Cambodia for the country's continuous day-to-day progress in all fields. The Foreign Minister informed President Heng Samrin of the many achievements made during his visit to Cambodia. He paid a courtesy call to Prime Minister Hun Sen, as well as the President of the Senate, and discussed bilateral work with the Cambodian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Prak Sokhonn. Foreign Minister Bui Thanh Son requested the National Assembly President to strengthen cooperation between the respective National Assembly institutions of Vietnam and Cambodia by increasing the frequency of visits and sharing experiences between members of the Young National Assembly Parliamentary Friendship Group and women parliamentarians. He also requested President Heng Samrin to facilitate and increase the mechanism for trade and economic activities between the two countries, as well as to promote and enhance mutual support between the two countries' respective legislators on international forums such as APA, AIPA, IPU, APPF, and so on. Foreign Minister Bui Thanh Son wished Cambodia success in its chairmanship of ASEAN and the ASEAN Inter-Parliamentary Assembly this year, saying that Vietnam supports Cambodia's noble mission. Finally, on behalf of the Vietnamese leadership, the Foreign Minister invited the Cambodian National Assembly President to lead an official visit to Vietnam at an appropriate time. President Heng Samrin accepted this request and promised to lead a delegation to Vietnam for an official state visit at a convenient time in the future. Vietnamese Foreign Minister Bui Thanh Son has highlighted some important issues in Cambodia-Vietnam relations, especially the strengthening of trade, labor, diplomacy, and the South China Sea issue in a meeting with Prime Minister Hun Sen on Thursday, 20th January. EAC News reporter Sraipor Kong has more.
In a meeting with the Prime Minister on Thursday morning, 20 January 2022, Mr. Bui Thanh Son has mentioned the relationship between neighboring countries, Cambodia and Vietnam, which have been well maintained for 55 years. He has added that to celebrate the 55th anniversary of the relationship, Vietnam hopes to continue working with Cambodia to further boost the two-country economic and trade stage. During Cambodia's chairmanship of ASEAN in 2022, Bui Thanh Son has announced his support for Cambodia's ASEAN leadership, in particular raising the issue of the South China Sea, which the Prime Minister wished to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Declaration on the Conduct of Party in South China Sea, as well as the ethical negotiation in the South China Sea. Minister delegation attached to the Prime Minister, Mr. Ka Kum Hoon, has told reporters after the meeting between Prime Minister Hun Sen and Mr. Bui Thanh Son that, in addition, he has stressed the importance of the South China Sea, especially this year, 2022, the 20th anniversary of the DOC, and Vietnam will support the promotion of the COC. He has also added that Vietnam really accepts and congratulates the Prime Minister on what he has said about ASEAN. Trade between Cambodia and Vietnam is currently worth about $10 billion. In his speech, Prime Minister Hun Sen has mentioned his satisfaction with the relationship that has benefited both countries. He said what makes this relationship grow and provide such benefit is due to the peaceful border, cooperation and friendship, urging to continue to maintain this situation. At the same time, Prime Minister urged the upcoming Cambodian-Vietnam railway connection to boost trade between the two countries. Regarding the South China Sea issue, Prime Minister has confirmed that ASEAN Secretary General Lim Chok Hoi has provided the location of the ASEAN Secretary General based in Jakarta, Indonesia for the South China Sea negotiation, and meeting will provide a large hotel in Phnom Penh to negotiate it as well. Since this year is the 20th anniversary of the DOC, it is important to work hard to be successful in the future, Minister Kalkam Horn has told reporters. In 2002, while Cambodia was chairing the ASEAN-China Summit, it has signed the Declaration on the Conduct of Party in South China Sea, which set the stake for a formal code of conduct to be followed. The terms of the declaration were established by the signatory country allies, promising to resolve differences peacefully and exercise safe restraint in action that would complicate or escalate the conflict and jeopardize peace and stability. The South China Sea dispute escalated during 2013 when China began building the Spratly and Paracel Islands. The 5 ASEAN countries, including Philippines, Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Vietnam, are all in dispute with China over maritime and trade issues of great value in the sea. ASEAN Chair 2022 Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen announced 3 solutions to find a solution to South China Sea issue: the implementation of the Declaration on the Conduct of Party in the South China Sea. China will achieve the South China Sea ethic. However, he told the international community not to blame Cambodia if a solution could not be found, because no issue in the South China Sea has been resolved by any ASEAN chair so far. Also, do not despise Cambodia. The Prime Minister told to wait and see the implementation of Cambodia first. Sripokong, EAC News.
The Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, A.K. Abdul Momen, has called on Cambodia to use its ASEAN chairmanship to increase its role in helping find a sustainable solution to the repatriation of Rohingya refugees living in Bangladesh to Myanmar. In a telephone conversation with Cambodian Foreign Minister Prak Sokhonn on Tuesday, Foreign Minister A.K. Abdul Momen congratulated Cambodia on its role as 2022 ASEAN chair, and further congratulated Foreign Minister Prak Sokhonn on his appointment as Special Envoy of the ASEAN Chair on Myanmar. During the meeting, the Bangladeshi Foreign Minister raised the issue of refugees from Myanmar's Rakhine State, who are currently seeking asylum in Bangladesh. He called on Cambodia, as the chair of ASEAN, to play a more active role in bringing about a sustainable solution to help repatriate these refugees back home quickly, safely, and with dignity. In response, Cambodian Foreign Minister Prak Sokhonn said that Cambodia, as chair, will continue to support the expansion of ASEAN's role through the ASEAN Secretary-General and the ASEAN Coordinating Center for Humanitarian Assistance on Disaster Management to coordinate humanitarian assistance and a safe repatriation process. Minister Prak Sokhonn also pledged to work closely with all stakeholders and development partners through the ASEAN mechanism to ensure a safe and dignified repatriation process as well as sustainable development within Rakhine State in accordance with the bilateral agreement between Bangladesh and Myanmar. According to the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, the Rohingya people have suffered decades of violence, discrimination, and persecution in Myanmar. Their largest eviction began in August 2017 after massive violence erupted in Myanmar's Rakhine State, forcing more than 700,000 people, half of them children, to seek asylum in Bangladesh. In the same year, Bangladesh signed a plan to repatriate bilateral refugees with Myanmar, but was delayed due to Myanmar's reluctance. The repatriation of refugees was halted after the February 2021 coup and political crisis in Myanmar. Nearly 890,000 Rohingya are currently living in the Kutupalong and Nayapara refugee camps in Bangladesh's Cox's Bazar area, which has become the largest and most populous camp in the world. Tourism ministers and other leaders and officials from ASEAN member countries, together with the ASEAN Secretary-General, announced the official reopening of ASEAN Tourism from Sihanoukville on Tuesday night. EAC News reporter Sripokong has more details.
The announcement of the reopening of ASEAN tourism is in line with the vision of ASEAN socio-economic recovery, based on the principle of intra-ASEAN tourism, which set the COVID-19 vaccine as the baseline to achieve the social immunity and encourage people to live in the new normal, and ensure services and business can continue to run in accordance with ASEAN principle on hygiene and safety for tourism professionals and the community. The move to reopen with such measure in place aims to promote trust and confidence while being encouraging to all tourism operators and service providers in the ASEAN region. Along with the announcement of the reopening of tourism in the region, the new ASEAN tourism logo with the ASEAN Safe Travel stamp, Safe and Warm, was also launched. The 40th ASEAN Tourism Forum 2022, which Cambodia hosted after a 2-year suspension due to the COVID-19 pandemic, has been held by ASEAN Secretary General Dato Lim Chok Hoi as a message and signal to the world on the reopening of tourism in the ASEAN region. As the 2022 ASEAN Chair, Prime Minister Hun Sen has emphasized the importance of reconnection ASEAN to boost people-to-people economic ties and tourism, while still promoting the fight against COVID-19 when opening tourism corridors. Srepokong, EAC News.
The Cambodian Minister of Tourism, Thong Kon, and his Indonesian counterpart, Sandiaga Salahuddin Uno, have signed a Memorandum of Understanding on Tourism Cooperation, which will help to boost tourism and increase direct flight connections between the two countries. The signing ceremony took place during the 40th ASEAN Tourism Forum in Sihanoukville on Tuesday, with the Cambodian Foreign Minister and the Indonesian Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy as signatories. The Indonesian Foreign Minister has expressed his appreciation to Cambodia for efficiently implementing safety rules and its standard operating procedures. The MOU between Cambodia and Indonesia is intended to deepen tourism cooperation and help restore tourism between the two countries as swiftly as possible. Secretary of State and spokesman for the Ministry of Environment, Net Pektra, has reported that over 60,000 traps were removed from within protected areas by park officials of the Ministry of Environment and conservation partners in 2021, in an effort to protect and conserve Cambodia's forests and wildlife. The Secretary of State has said that this is a 20% increase in the number of traps removed compared to 2020. EAC News reporter Srepokong has more.
Secretary of State Net Pektra stated that traps are still a serious threat to all kinds of wildlife, and Cambodia is not the only country with the problem of traps spread across the protected areas. Conserved forest areas in other ASEAN countries like Vietnam, Laos, Indonesia, and Malaysia are also threatened by millions of traps. The Secretary of State stressed that these traps are the most threatening factor for wildlife and one of the biggest wildlife killers, since trapping materials are so easily available in market and sold for very cheap. He added that the number of traps is estimated to have increased, and in Asia it is estimated there are more than 12 million traps placed in protected areas across the continent. On behalf of the Ministry of Environment, Secretary of State Net Pektra expressed his appreciation and gratitude to park rangers, partner organizations, and all protected area community who have participated in removal of traps from natural forest areas. He mentioned that rangers have not only patrolled to prevent crime, the destruction of natural resources, and deforestation, but also helped to find, remove, and destroy traps to save wildlife. As a result, much wildlife caught in traps have been rescued and released back into the wild. And for those animals which are found injured or unwell, park officials contact veterinary officials for care and treatment before releasing them back into the wild. In addition to the 61,611 wildlife endangered traps that were removed, rangers also confiscated a total of 758 firearms used to hunt wild animals in 2021. The Secretary of State emphasized that the increase in recycled guns also pose a serious threat to wildlife and that these guns are one of the most dangerous weapons. He further mentioned that chasing dogs also causes harm to wildlife since some people keep dogs in herd to hunt, which has the secondary effect of spreading disease of domestic dogs to wild animals and killing them in the process. The Secretary of State urged people to stop hunting and trapping animals, stop trading wild animals and consuming wild games, and to not believe that eating these wild animals can substitute for medicine or improve health, as increased human-to-animal contact can increase the risk of spreading other viruses. Srepokong, EAC News.
Cambodia has reported 37 new COVID-19 cases. This includes 18 imported cases, and there have been 16 patient recoveries, and once more, no deaths. The number of locally transmitted Omicron cases is currently at 122, including 19 new cases today. Cambodia has now recorded a total of 473 cases of Omicron, including 351 imported cases. Cambodia's COVID-19 case tally has now climbed to 120,914. The death toll stands at 3,015. The number of patients treated successfully since the pandemic reached Cambodia is 117,162. And the tally for imported cases has climbed to 20,208. Healthcare workers are currently treating a total of 704 patients. Shares in Japan's Sony Group fell 9% on Wednesday, 19th January, after gaming rival Microsoft has announced it will buy developer Activision Blizzard in a record $68.7 billion deal for the industry.
Microsoft sets itself up as a one-stop tech shop with historic purchase of video game giant. Its deal to buy Activision Blizzard, the maker of Candy Crush and Call of Duty, for $68.7 billion would be Microsoft's largest acquisition. Activision Blizzard has come under fire in recent months from public allegations of gender discrimination and sexual harassment, as well as worker strikes, all of which increase the risks for Microsoft's biggest acquisition ever. Buying Activision would add power to Microsoft's already heavy-hitting game business, which includes gaming unit Xbox and popular kids game Minecraft, and position Microsoft well to compete in the emerging metaverse business prioritized by tech companies. Microsoft has built itself into a tech conglomerate in recent years through big deals such as career networking site LinkedIn and coding site GitHub, as well as its homegrown cloud computing powerhouse Azure, part of a growing trend among tech giants toward operating sprawling empires. And Sony slides on this monumental challenge from Microsoft's gaming deal. While Sony's PlayStation is widely seen as having a lead in the generational battle with Microsoft's Xbox, the purchase of the Call of Duty maker comes as Microsoft is aggressively expanding its Game Pass subscription service. PlayStation is a major source of revenue for Activision, completing any potential decision by Microsoft to remove titles from Sony's system and squeeze its rival. Sony has strengthened its network of its house games studios in the recent year and has delivered a string of exclusive hits, with Microsoft left playing catch-up. The companies don't expect the deal to close until 2023. Microsoft has largely escaped the trust-busting scrutiny that its fellow tech giants have endured recently, in part by carefully applying lessons it learned in its huge antitrust battle with regulators 2 decades ago.
Australian health system is on the verge of collapse, so Prime Minister Scott Morrison's government is forced to make a desperate move to call for help from so-called backpackers. Australia throws out an invitation to backpackers on Wednesday, 19th January, seeking reinforcements for a workforce that's crippled by an Omicron COVID-19 outbreak, as the country's healthcare system cracks under the pandemic strain, with more deaths predicted in weeks ahead.
Prime Minister Scott Morrison's government has sent a call to backpackers because the Australian health system is on the verge of collapse and the number of the deaths is only growing under the onslaught of Omicron strain of coronavirus. Mr. Morrison has a plan not to charge backpackers a visa application in exchange for getting involved in any way in the fight against COVID-19 during cruises through the country, but also in other sectors that have been decimated due to the Omicron strain. Australian Premier has said his government was waiving the Australia $453 visa application fee for any backpacker or student who arrive in Australia within the next 12 weeks, and has encouraged them to see work as they tour the country. The call for backpackers comes as Morrison faces criticism at the beginning of an election year over his handling of an outbreak of the Omicron COVID-19 variant that has seen record numbers of new infection and death.
And my message to them is, come on down. come on down now, because you wanted to come to Australia, you've got your visa, we want you to come to Australia and enjoy a holiday here in Australia, move all the way around the country, and at the same time join our workforce and help us in our agricultural sector and our hospitality sector and so many of the other parts of the economy that rely on that workforce right now.
According to many, this desperate move comes in an election year when the Morrison government is facing huge criticism for failing to bring the pandemic under control, despite the most rigorous measure whose victim was Novak Djokovic. But the paradox is that Morrison sent the invitation on the same day when the American Center for Disease Control, the famous CDC, has announced in its American mid-year that 22 countries are on the list of very risky for Americans when it comes to traveling there. Australia is on the list as well. Officials have reported 67 new deaths and nearly 80,000 new cases by midday on Wednesday, with Western Australia to report daily figures. Australian businesses are grappling with the growing toll of workers out sick or ordered to isolate as close contacts. The labor crunch has created supply shortage, leading major grocers to raise their purchase limits on essentials and is hampering the country's economic recoveries. Another criticism of Prime Minister Morrison is that there are not enough home antigen tests or fast tests for COVID, while on the other hand, the prices of those on the market are jumping. This especially enrages people.
Only 7% of the African population has received 2 doses of COVID-19 vaccines, the WHO's emergency director, Mike Ryan, has said on Tuesday. In comparison, over half of the world's total population has already been double vaccinated. Speaking during a virtual panel on vaccine equity at the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization's emergency director, Mike Ryan, has stressed that we are leaving huge swaths of the world behind. Africa CDC Director John Nkengasong has echoed Ryan's statement, saying that there is no reason for Africa to be lagging behind other countries. He says that what we have seen over the last 2 years is a total collapse of global cooperation and solidarity. The CEO of the Vaccine Alliance, Gavi, Seth Barkley, has said the challenge with developing countries is giving them the tools, the finance, and the planning time to be able to roll these products out. On Saturday, 15th January, the COVAX Global Vaccine Sharing Program has said it has delivered a total of 1 billion COVID-19 vaccine doses.
Now, over half the world's, if we look at the population of the world, in total, over half of the world's population has received 2 doses of vaccine. But if we look at in Africa, in our African regional office states, only 7%. So the reality is that the world is moving towards a 70% goal. The problem is we are leaving huge swathes of the world behind.
So we're going to see a shift in the trends, hopefully, and probably supply 1 billion plus doses in the first quarter or 2, combined through COVAX to the African continent. So we're in a far different and better place than we were last year.
So what we have seen over the last 2 years is really total collapse of global cooperation and solidarity, period. I think there's absolutely no reason why a continent of Africa should be lagging behind with having 7% of the population fully immunized. A continent of 1.2 billion people is totally unacceptable.
Supplies to poorer nations have long been very limited because of a lack of vaccines, as wealthier states secured most of the doses initially available from December 2020. COVAX was launched in 2020 with the goal of delivering 2 billion doses by the end of 2021, but was slowed down by wealthier states' initial hoarding of limited shots, export restrictions, and frequent changes within its organization. Gavi, a vaccine alliance which co-manages COVAX, is seeking more funds to reach the WHO's goal of vaccinating 70% of the population in poorer nations by July. And now for a look at news making international headlines this Thursday, 20th January.
Israel's Defense Ministry has announced on Tuesday, 18th of January, it had completed a planned flight test of the Arrow weapon system. Last year, Israel has confirmed it was developing a new ballistic missile shield, the Arrow 4, with the United States. Its Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 interceptors are already operational as part of a multi-layered system to destroy incoming missiles in the atmosphere and in space. The Arrow, or HEPS, is a family of anti-ballistic missiles designed to fulfill an Israel requirement for a missile defense system that would be more effective against ballistic missiles than the MIM-104 Patriot surface-to-air missile. Jointly funded and produced by Israel in the United States, development of the system began in 1986 and has continued since, drawing some contested criticism. Undertaken by Israel Aerospace Industries and Boeing, it is overseen by the Israel Ministry of Defense, HUMA administration, and the U.S. Missile Defense Agency.
A Mexican photojournalist has died after being shot in the head outside his home in the northern border city of Tijuana, official has announced. Margarito Martinez, 49, has worked for more than a decade in Tijuana for several national and international news outlets covering the gang crime and violence that has scarred the city, which sits on U.S.-Mexico border opposite San Diego. The Attorney General Office in the Tijuana's home state at Baja California has said officials who responded to a 911 call around midday found Martinez's body outside his home with a head injury caused by firearm. According to Sonia Dianda, local journalist and representative of collective called Yo Sí Soy Periodista, Spanish for I Am Journalist, Martinez had requested protection from a state program aimed at safeguarding the life of journalists. Sonia Dianda has mentioned that they do request that the Attorney General's office pay special attention, especially because journalists who live in Mexico where journalists are clearly at risk, and Margarito had requested the protection mechanism for journalists less than a month ago, but it was too late for him. Tijuana has become one of Mexico's most violent cities due to conflict among drug gangs caught in tough war over trafficking routes. Baja California Human Rights Commission has condemned Martinez's killing, saying any attack on journalists constitutes an attack on freedom of expression and the right of society to be informed. Martinez was the second journalist to be killed this year in Mexico after the death of Jose Gambor last week in the southeastern state of Veracruz. From 2000 to 2021, human rights group Article 19 has registered 145 murders of journalists in Mexico, with 7 deaths recorded last year.
French actor Gaspard Ulliel, known for playing a young Hannibal Lecter, and Yves Saint Laurent, has died at 37 after a ski accident in the Alps, his family have confirmed. The actor is believed to have collided with another skier on the slopes at the La Rosière resort in the Savoie region of the Alps. He was taken to a hospital with a reported skull injury on Tuesday and was pronounced dead on Wednesday. Gaspard Ulliel portrayed a young version of the fictional serial killer Hannibal Lecter in 2007's Hannibal Rising, and fashion mogul Yves Saint Laurent in the 2014 biopic. He also has a key role in the upcoming Marvel Disney Plus series Moon Knight, which had wrapped filming in October, and was the face of the Chanel men's fragrance Bleu de Chanel. Gaspard Ulliel won the 2017 César Award for Best Actor for his role in Xavier Dolan's It's Only the End of the World.
For me, it was more about the encounter of two liars, two imposteurs, and yes, there's many different ways to feel, express love. So maybe in a way, kind of love relationship. But yeah, I think the most important thing for me was this mirror effect between the two characters. Yeah.
French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire has said that French cinema is losing a huge talent full of charm, while French Prime Minister Jean Castex has said Gaspard Ulliel grew up with cinema and cinema grew up with him. They loved each other madly. It is with a heavy heart that we will no longer see his most beautiful interpretations. After the break, a look at all the latest sports news.
EAC News' audience is growing. Our YouTube channel has over 150,000 verified subscribers. To mark the milestone, we've received the Silver Creator Award from YouTube. It's given to channels with over 100,000 subscribers. YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki says the award celebrates EAC News' hard work and incredible achievement. She says we brought a unique voice and style to the world, but have also created valuable connections and built a community along the way. The next milestone we're going for is 1 million subscribers, and we'd really like that Gold Creator Award. So if you're not already a subscriber, head to YouTube and search for EAC News. Subscribers get alerts when the daily Roundup is premiering and live events are streaming. Get all the latest breaking news and updates from Cambodia in English. The EAC News channel on YouTube. Cambodia made clear. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Francisco Paco Gento, one of Real Madrid's greatest players and a European champion with Spain, has died at the age of 88, the club has announced on Tuesday, 18th January.
Having started his career at Racing Santander, Paco Gento has joined Real Madrid in 1953 and spent 18 years in the Spanish capital until his retirement in 1971. The left winger has made 600 appearances for the club and has scored 182 goals. Paco Gento remained the only player to have won 6 European Cups, and he also won 12 league grounds, 2 Copa del Rey titles, and 1 Intercontinental Cups during his time at Real. The club has issued a statement saying, Real Madrid would like to express its condolences and its love and affection to his wife, Marie-Louise, his son Francisco and Julio, his granddaughters Aitana and Candelas, and his all relatives, colleagues, and loved ones. Paco Gento won 43 caps for Spain and has represented his country in the 1962 and 1966 World Cups.
Athletes traveling to next month's Beijing Olympics were warned on Tuesday by speakers at a seminar hosted by Human Rights Watch about speaking up on human rights issues while in China for their own safety. Rights groups have long criticized the International Olympic Committee for awarding the Games to China, citing the treatment by the Chinese government of the Uyghurs and other Muslim minority groups, which the United States has deemed genocide. China denies the allegations of human rights abuses. The Director General of the Global Athlete Group, Rob Kohler, has mentioned that silence is complicity, and that's why the Global Athlete Group has concerns. He has added that the group believes there is not much protection going to be afforded to athletes, so he has advised athletes not to speak up, and he wants them to compete and use their voice only when they get home. Rule 50 of the Olympic Charter states that no kind of demonstration or political, religious, or racial propaganda is permitted in any Olympic sites, venues, or other areas. Human Rights Watch researcher Yachi Wang has said Chinese laws are very vague on the crimes that can be used to prosecute people's free speech. People can be charged with picking quarrels or provoking trouble. There are all kinds of crimes that can be leveled at peaceful, critical comments. A cross-country skier who represented the U.S. at the 2014 and 2018 Winter Games, Noah Hoffman, has said the American team was being shielded from questions about human rights. Concerns about data privacy and spying at the Games were raised on Tuesday when a smartphone app built by China to monitor the health of attendees was reported to contain security flaws. Rob Kohler has mentioned that when it comes to surveillance, they know it's there. There are reasons that several countries have come out and asked athletes not to bring their own mobile devices. He further said that any person of a sane mind who hears these things must have concerns. The IOC has said that the Olympic body recognizes and upholds human rights as enshrined in both the fundamental principles of the Olympic Charter and its code of ethics at all times. The Winter Olympics are set to begin on February 4th. Several countries, including the United States, United Kingdom, Japan, and Australia, have announced diplomatic boycotts of the Games over concerns about human rights in China. Tickets for the Winter Olympics, set to begin on February 4th, will be distributed to targeted groups of people or selected spectators and will not be sold to the general public due to COVID-19, the organizing committee has announced on Monday, 17th January.
Only selected spectators will be permitted at the next month's Beijing Olympics because of the coronavirus pandemic, organizers said Monday. Beijing had already announced that no fans from outside the country would be permitted at the events and had not offered tickets to the general public. Monday's announcement, posted on the organizing committee's website, confirmed expectations that the Winter Games would have few onlookers at the venues, under even more strict conditions that imposed during last year's Summer Olympics in Tokyo. China has largely avoided major virus outbreaks with a regimen of lockdowns, mass testing for COVID-19, and travel restrictions, although it continues to fight surges in several cities, including the port of Tianjin, about an hour from Beijing.
And now for a look at how the weather will be playing out tomorrow. And finally, a calf with two heads, an extremely rare condition, was recently born in India's northeastern Gomadi district. The calf was born on Saturday, 15th January, at a farmer's house. The female calf has a medical condition called polycephaly, which is the condition of having more than one head. Two-headed animals, called bicephalic or dicephalic animals, and three-headed tricephalic animals are the only type of multi-headed creatures seen in the real world, and are formed by same process as conjoined twins from monozygotic twin embryos. Two heads can be side by side and supported by one torso, or two heads can be directly linked with a torso supporting only one. Two heads can also share control of organs and limbs. When animals are born with this condition, at times their brains fight with each other. The Deputy Director of the Animal Resources Development Department in Tripura, Dr. Pritam Sarkar, said on Tuesday that he has never seen such a case in Tripura in the last 10 to 15 years. It is a rarest of the rare case, and often the survival rate is very low, at only around 38%, and it becomes very difficult to save the calf. The state where the animal was born has launched a scheme to give birth to female calves in order to boost milk production. In another similar case, a calf with two heads was born in Lazek, a village in North Macedonia, in April 2021. Thank you for watching the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. For more breaking news and updates, you can check out our website, eacnews.asia, or search EAC News on Telegram or at your favorite app store. More from the EAC News team tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We will see you then.